This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca. The theme at IRSA this year, the fitness industry's most renowned convention and trade show, went from a story of recovery to one of redemption in the industry. On today's episode, we have Adam Sedlack joining the podcast, and he's the CEO and president of the UFC Gym. Adam has been in the fitness industry since 1994 and has performed nearly every job, from front desk to trainer to management. He has even traveled and relocated across the US over 20 times. And now he brings the UFC Gym Train Different approach to the masses. With 160 locations opened and 1,000 additional locations currently in development across 40 countries, rapid expansion and aggressive adaptation have been the name of the game. In this episode, Sedlack opens up on essential leadership qualities, global expansion, industry advocacy, and shares his passion for how fitness can be used to transform all elements of life. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. Plus, we continue our gym and wellness haven tours, which feature inspiring founder stories. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. There's a notorious B.I.G. quote, and I don't know if you ever listen to hip hop, but it was climb the ladder to success, escalator style. And when we hear your journey starting from entry-level position in the fitness industry, basically going through all the rungs, I'm curious, at what point was leadership a quality you noticed in yourself, and how was that nurtured to get you to this incredible level that you're at now?
Leadership is something I truly believe it doesn't matter how much education you have, how much information you've been given. I think leadership is earned by you becoming, first of all, the best version of who you are, and then having an extreme amount of emotional intelligence to be fully aware of how you impact others and how others can impact your thought process. There's a lot of variables that we deal with every day. Both, when you think about it from a global perspective, you have, wars going on, economy issues, inflation, it's one thing after the other. And all of this is being driven down from the media or even your own peer group. And you deal with all that. And then you have to go into your profession, whatever it is, and try to get the best possible return on your energy and return on investment that you can. And sometimes when you're going through all of these variables, it's very, very complicated to still be a good leader and be aware of how you're coming across. And so I think that only happens through experience. And I think for me personally, I didn't really understand leadership probably till 15 years into my journey. I think a certain part of the way you can get by with personal heroics and really drive it yourself personally. And then there's that intersection where you really need people to leverage your ability to grow a business. And once you have that, if you're not aware of having the right presence to be able to inspire others to execute, it puts you in a very difficult place. So it wasn't until I became probably a multi-club operator with 24-hour fitness back in 2004, 2005, that I was really aware that I needed to grow up and understand that leadership's beyond what you can do personally. And it's how you can inspire others to be better versions of themselves.
How important were mentors throughout that period of your life? Because at that point, you started out really in 94, you're 20 years deep. Yeah.
No, Matt, you don't know what you don't know when you're a young kid, right? So when you're 21 and you're working like crazy, you do it for other reasons than you do it when you're an adult or when you grow. And so you also understand that you can't have the same conversation with everybody, right? So if I'm frustrated or negative or upset and I'm sitting as a general manager of a club, I can't go to my front desk person and complain to them why I'm upset. And so you need that vehicle, the artery of communication to be able to talk to other people that have the experience and the awareness and the know-how to navigate through adversity. And so I've been very lucky to have incredible mentors, both personally and professionally, to help deal with me as an individual, because certainly some of them have had an extreme amount of patience, but then also add their experiences and what they've been through to help me better navigate the adversity that I have to go through on a daily basis. So yeah, I think mentorship is critical to anybody's success, and developing that circle of association around you with people that you trust is paramount to anybody being able to have success in business.
Well, and the word critical, I think, is an important one to highlight there, because we have to have such an element of reflection within ourselves and not be afraid of criticism and using that as a tool. So as you were coming up through the ranks and recognized that you wanted to continue to grow within this industry, was there a personal trait that you had to focus in on and really work on that was going to serve you as you looked future forward?
Yeah, I would say insecurity. I think what I did was I tried to outwork everybody because of the inner insecurities that I felt. And I thought if I outworked them, then that would rationalize my lack of confidence. And so what I personally had to do was know my value and be aware that I did have the capability and skill set without necessarily losing work ethic and losing the desire and the passion that you have. And that's a hard thing to face. Insecurities are very hard to communicate to other people because we're all prideful. We all want to come across in the best possible light. And then once you communicate that, yeah, you do have weaknesses, you're automatically afraid that that's going to diminish your value. But what I later learned now in my current position is those that can communicate their opportunities are actually the best leaders that we have, because they're authentic, they're aware of their weaknesses, and they know how to hire to their weakness. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a big point for me to be able to understand how to do that, when to do it. But once I was able to get there, it was like a load off your shoulders.
Well, I was going to say, because I appreciate that you use that verbiage, because sometimes people of your status in career, it comes across as a vulnerability to even admit that in the first place. And at the end of the day, you're exactly right. We all deal with them, and it can either be your shackle or your growth spurt. And so luckily you had the right mentorship and emotional intelligence to recognize this is the growth spurt, which clearly has worked out, because now when we look even from a company perspective, I know rapid and aggressive adaptation has been the name of the game through COVID. And then on top of that, you're looking at rapid expansion. So let's talk about UFC Gym. I had the opportunity to visit 2 of your locations in California over the last week. And admittedly, I obviously was familiar with MMA. I know what that is all about. And so when I walked in your doors, the thing that took me back the most was the community. I saw people fighting in the ring. I saw pairs of people helping out each other on the bags, and then people mingling down by the weight rack, catching up on the work week. I saw little kids getting mentored by adults in this incredible circle that they're all sitting around and having conversation. And I didn't expect that, to be truthful. So talk to me about the vibe that has been created and how you've made this space that is a community for everyone. Because when people hear UFC, there can be a misconception that it's just tough, nitty gritty, which certainly discipline is cultivated there. But there is this incredible atmosphere that you've made as soon as you step forth.
Yeah, listen, the intent from day one was always to identify what makes a UFC athlete, a top UFC athlete, so great. And we knew these guys were the ultimate athlete, both physically and mentally. If you're going to enter a 5-round fight in an octagon and there's basically no rules, you better have your mental mindset correct, right? So we knew that if we could capture the way that athletes train and then put it in a position where the average consumer or the entry-level consumer that really just wants to become the best version of themselves, if they can learn the best traits from that UFC athlete, that we could have something. Because you see a UFC athlete, in order for them to be great, they got to have this community around them, right? They have to have these 8 to 10 great coaches and a manager and nutritionalist and all these people that they trust in that community for them to become great at what they want. And really, the entry-level consumer is no different. they need people to trust. They need a place that they can go and call home and say, hey, I trust my coach, and I trust my classes, and I trust my nutritional plan, and I trust my technology, that I'm going to give myself the best odds of getting results, which will then motivate me to keep on working out. So it's really one day at a time. As we know, the number one health enemy is procrastination. This thing is easy to put off, right? So you have to try to make it addictive and sticky. And so, I think that strategy has proved out to be incredibly successful in regards to community development. The challenge as we continue to progress is when you look at these clubs and these incredible, beautiful facilities that bring together equipment and Zumba classes with boxing classes and jiu-jitsu, it's really about how the strategy is on the core value proposition to make sure the consumer can feel like they're getting the return that may cost $100 a month or $120 a month, right? There's so many gyms around you now that are $10 per month, and their strategy is not a bad. I'm not saying their strategy is bad, because what they do is they go rent a nice club, they put nice equipment in, they have no labor, and they charge $10 a month. So it's an easy capture point for a consumer. And I think all of us would be interested in paying $10 a month. But what we want to try to do is we want to try to accelerate and actually have people get results that use the gym so they stay with it forever. And I believe people want to pay for that. I believe people will pay for what they get. And so any of us can go do a bench press and do a treadmill for $10. Will you pay 50, 60, 70, 80, up to $130 a month to get something that really can change your life, both physically and mentally? So that's kind of the bet. And you can only do that through great community and great people that have like-minded strategies to help get the consumers to their full potential.
And as you talk strategy and diversification coming out of the pandemic, talk to me a little bit about how you built that bridge, because we know that a lot of things went virtual, but there has been this yearning to come back face to face.
Yeah, well, the industry is back. The desire to go virtual, really everybody overcompensated on that. And I think it was primarily driven by maybe virtual companies, right? Is that, of course, if I'm running a virtual company, I'm going to want to drive that. But there's really good virtual companies out there. I mean, we're blessed to have a company called Forte that has collaborated with us, and they want in-gym experience with virtual to work together. So things like that can be incredibly exciting. But yeah, I mean, listen, even at this stage, not all the customers are back yet, right? There's still the high-risk customer that's out there that still is holding out before they actually come back to the facility and to the gym. So if you think about a funnel or a capture size of a consumer, what was 100 is now probably 85, right? And so now you have gyms splitting those 85 people amongst each other as we're starting to move forward. But I think with time, and as time goes by, and as people understand more of the facts of what happened with COVID, how it was treated in the media, and how all the facts look, I think the confidence level will continue to increase, and it actually underscores the need and the desire to be in the fitness, because what did we learn? We learned strong immune systems conquered everything, and that puts you in a good spot for anything that could potentially happen in the future.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
But you gave me the perfect segue there. We know the advocacy that's taking place through IRSA, really trying to unify the fitness community to be that voice that we are essential. We're seeing this happen throughout the United States. I'm based in Canada, and obviously we have the FIC that's being the voice and has even struck down some legislation. For example, in one of our provinces, they were trying to add an additional tax to fitness memberships at a time where we know it was just proven that being healthy and fit was one of the major things that could have combat what we just went through. You have a global operation. So I'm curious, in regards to the fitness markets, is there any country that's doing this message well, that fitness is essential, or are you finding that a lot of these destinations are in the same battle that we are in North America?
everybody's within 10%. And there's markets that are worse for sure. And there's markets that, you don't even feel that COVID was there. And so it's just based on the trade area and the market. But I think if you were to fast forward in 12 months, we're 100% back to normalcy. And I think it's in everybody's rearview mirror. It's hard to have the courage to go out there and talk about the facts when it was against what the government probably wanted you to do. And so if you're pushing against that, it's a little bit more difficult. And so I think as time goes on, governments become more lenient and more passive on information. And I think as time goes on, we become smarter scientifically about COVID. And we're going to learn a lot of stuff that is, quite frankly, scary. We're going to learn how the development of kids between the ages of 1.5 to 4 are just messed up, and their social skills are going to be different. There's all sorts of roads that we can go down and talk about, but it's one thing after the other that ramifications are in place that is going to impact us in later years. And so we got some makeup to do. And I think that it's great that fitness and IRSA and other agencies are doing their best to make sure that fitness becomes essential, because it should be. It should be both from a mental and physical perspective. And quite frankly, I think insurance companies should step up and subsidize more. I think that government should not only not tax it, but it should be a write-off, and make
Agreed.
Sure that, yeah. I mean, I don't understand why there's so much of an objection against it. I mean, even using the, health savings cards, right, to make sure that it becomes a deductible. I mean, it's just little things like that can get people more active. And I'm telling you, it just takes 2 or 3 times a week to change somebody's life. To add 10 years of life, you just got to train 2 or 3 times a week and eat decent, and you're in a much better spot. So hopefully with all the things that we've been through for the last couple of years, it actually awakens more to the importance and how essential fitness is going forward.
No, the conversation's definitely exciting because, like yourself, it looks so simple on the outside. I really don't understand how there could be a rebuttal around it. And I appreciate a lot of the studies that are taking place because I understand that dollars talk. And then when you put the dollars of chronic illness versus fitness, you're like, okay, so there's your evidence. So we are on the right track, thank goodness. And a voice like UFC Gym, so wonderful to have because you have these global connections. So I know that you operate corporate as well as franchise gyms. So talk to me from a leadership perspective. How do you balance to make sure that your brand messaging, your company vision stays on point when you have so many touch points spread throughout the globe?
It can be complicated, right? Because you have a lot of content and a lot of value proposition, and cultures are all different, right? So if you just think about the US, the culture in Hawaii is completely different than the culture of New York, right? Just look at the airports. At New York, there's honks all the time, and at Hawaii, if you honk, you're in trouble. So, it's definitely different. And when you start to tack on international countries, we have gyms in Russia, right? Imagine the complexity of that. We have gyms in China. We're about to announce some new deals in Africa. And so every location, territory brings its own benefit and its own set of opportunities that we have to navigate through. So yeah, making sure that the communication is on point and centralized is critically important. And so we try to do that by making sure the core team that we have at UFC is all 100% on the same page, meaning that we have the same shared North Star, that we're all driving towards the same thing. And then it might mean something different. So building dues in China is completely different than building dues in the US. One is monthly electronic fund transfer based and one is annual based, right? So even though the strategy is to build dues as a North Star, you have to do it with 2 different tactics. And so that can become more complicated. So we just have to make sure our team is tight and we're on the same page and we're going the same direction. And we have some versatility and some autonomy that's allowed by each individual leader to work with franchisees or international partners. And then we have a different set of leaders that work with our corporate owned stores to help us navigate through the challenges and adversity of each one of those trade areas, because even domestically, it's not easy right now, right? When you have added competition, 85% member return, there's a bit of an uphill battle. So you have to err on doing the right thing all the time. Just do the right thing and make sure you try to inspire the people that are around you to really be the best of that they can be, so they can portray that to the consumer. And if that happens, we should be okay. But you got to take it one day at a time. You can't look down the field too far. You got to kind of take this day by day, week by week, and month by month. And again, make sure you build your business in a predictable, healthy way so you can have long-term success.
I always find it interesting, the parallels when you look at the business side and then the fitness side. If it was a fighter training, I know they would give me the same advice: consistency, showing up day by day, knowing that you gave your best and didn't, if you had 90% to give that day, squeeze out your 90 at 100% and then do that again. And you get there. When it comes to global expansion, and as you're saying, looking at clubs in Africa, how do your teams decide where might be the best opportunity or where to go next?
It's really about identifying local partners in those countries. As an example, there's no way that I could run gyms in Chile, right? There's just no way. I mean, I think the business, has similarities, of course, but when you start thinking about your core value proposition, the content of your marketing and your distribution strategies and how you hire managers and the local laws in the market, incredibly complicated. So you have to find business partners in those areas that are willing to identify themselves as master territory owners and really treat them as the owners of the business, provide them as much support as you possibly can that creates consistency between the brand here in the US, and try to drive that international. Now, we're lucky that we're in the US because a lot want to replicate what's in the US, right? So it puts you at a small advantage there. But nevertheless, it still comes with its own challenges and circumstances that you have to navigate through, right? Everybody across the globe was impacted with COVID. No matter where you're at and what country you were at, everybody across the globe, when you start in a new country, you still got startup costs and you still got to create credibility and you got a process to drive. And so there's certainly work to do. So the key is, what we try to do is have full transparency with each international partner. We try to make sure we have as much flexibility that we possibly can have to make sure that the international partner is armed with the best possible business case and assets and information so they can be successful in those markets. There's nothing better than when an international partner takes the keys and they run the play perfectly, and you see that hard work come to fruition and just get the business results that they're capable of. And so that's the focus. And again, when you look at the number game, and it doesn't matter what sector you're in, whether you're in fitness or whether you're in finance or whatever else, food, whatever else there is, there's a percentage game here, right? You got to pick the right real estate. You got to pick the right people. You got to execute the value proposition the right way. You got to know how to market it. And if you do all those things right, it puts you in a very, very good position to be successful.
Well, and conversely, because you're coming at this from such an educated perspective, because the experience that you have, no one can take that from you, this lived experience from the ground up. But I'm curious, going into some of these new markets, have you ever come into a challenge that was particularly surprising to you that's maybe an element that you didn't have to think about in the US?
Yeah. You have all day for me to talk about it. Let's be clear, in every circumstance, there's a challenge, right? And I'll use one as an example. New Jersey, nobody told me you couldn't turn left. And so, when you think about customer acquisition, you're thinking about a highway and you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to get this percentage of cars per day to come check me out. And all of a sudden you cut that in half because you can't turn left. It's problematic, right? So you got to figure that out and you got to assess that. And so, I think when you look at every market, you have to figure out by market, and I will just use the US as an example. You got to figure out a consistent way to try to market it in the US, but then you got to figure out how to localize each market to its own kind of identity, right? So what works in New York and Miami could be different than Hawaii and California. And you got to rely on your local talent to be able to tell you what they think works and what they can make a reality, and trust them a little bit. We're not all going to be perfect. We're all going to make some mistakes, but if they're healthy mistakes, I think that's positive. If they're weak mistakes, meaning you didn't do the right work on educating yourself, preparing and being aware, then that's on you as a leader. And and we should not allow that to happen. So yeah, every market's unique, and you definitely got to be flexible and adaptable, especially in the game of franchising, because you also get different types of leaders being able to or putting themselves in position to run specific clubs in specific trade markets. But if done right, if you do it by science, you pick the right real estate, you're good at fundamentals of business, and it can transfer over, your chances of success are pretty good.
The business case of Target as a Canadian comes to mind as you're telling that story, because if there was ever a miss with marketing to Canadians, that was it. No shade on Target. I know lots of people love to shop there, but it did not survive here because they basically took the US script, brought it here. It did not work an inch. But when it comes to franchising, what qualities are you looking for that make a strong franchise partner?
It's always preferred to have some fitness experience, right? Because the industry, like any industry, is unique. And when you look at execution, you want to be able to rely on those experience to overcome negativities and perform. So obviously that's important. Capital is important. If you don't have capital to invest in marketing, if you don't have capital to invest in the right real estate or the right equipment, if you have to over finance your project, and you put a lot of debt on the project, it can put you behind the ball in a big way. So I think capital is also important. And then the good old, thought process of just being a good person and having empathy and being aware and wanting to do this for more than just capital and money and in return, but also wanting to make a purpose in their trade area of how a business can change lives and how people can have a different trajectory in their life on where they're going, where they went yesterday compared to where they're going today, right? So I still believe that if any customer that was not working out yesterday on their own, and they come to our gym and they let us have them participate with our coaches and our classes and nutritional programs and recovery programs and family programs, if we can get them inside that funnel, their chances of living a better life and extending their life go up drastically. So then it goes back to the default game of marketing and how you get people into those doors. But I still believe that. I think the brand's great, and I think it's amazing, and I think it gives the human being the best possible chance to find out what they're capable of.
I agree. And just a testament to what you do on the ground level, when I was in your gyms, so many people saw the microphone and wanted to talk about it. And that's really the best testimonial you can have, when people are coming out of the woodwork and saying, this changed my life. This is why. This is my favorite place to be. This is the highlight of my week. So kudos. Obviously, from the top down approach of that is working out very well. When it comes to people on the flip side, though, that are interested in becoming a franchisee, what questions should they be asking of the business when they're going through these initial meetings?
I think what's the model look like, first of all, right? And how do you put yourself in position to sustain long-term return on investment or profitability, right? So you got to take a look at what key initiatives are put in position to drive accelerated performance, and can that trade area satisfy those key initiatives? And so what is my marketing strategy? What is my real estate strategy? What kind of capital do I need to make sure that I secure to put myself in the best chances of success? If I need to finance, what's my financing strategy? And then what's my people plan? How do I get the right people around me to make sure that I can predict that the value proposition can come to life in my particular facility? So I think those questions have to be addressed before anybody signs a lease, because if you don't address those and you're just going into it thinking everything's going to be okay, well, that doesn't do well for a lot of people. So you have to make sure that those I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and really the devil in the details to make sure that you can predict outcomes by category is incredibly important.
Well, and I know that a lot of I's and T's have been crossed on your end, because I was looking at a quote here from an interview you did that by 2023, which we're into 2024, you were thinking 2 to 4 club openings a week. So I'm just curious, what's the vision? Where are you at in this process? And what does that look like for everyone on your team as an organization? Because that's a pretty exciting stat, especially coming out of what we experienced over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it really is driven by international, right? So, domestic's certainly growing, but international, if you're developing in 39 countries and every market's opening clubs and they're sub-licensing, you're going to have material growth. And so, yeah, we're definitely excited about that. It's amazing to see certain markets. Like if you look at the Middle East right now, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, all those markets are opening right now. Each one of them are opening an individual club at the same time. And so it's a lot of work. Then we have Central Asia, we have clubs opening. We have Australia, another club just opened. Mexico's negotiating a couple, so it's definitely, you always want to strive for achievement beyond base case, right? And that quote I threw out is definitely beyond base case, but it's also a reality based on where we're at in the industry and where we're at, post-COVID. There's still a lot of work to do, though. So let's be clear: is that any fitness company that's going out and over boasting and over marketing themselves probably is not solidified on a super solid platform. You have to make sure that we respect the challenges of today while we're launching for material growth for tomorrow. And by dealing with those challenges head on today, it just puts you in a much better spot to grow, not just at 2 or 3 clubs, a month or a week, but you can end up getting to 5, 10 clubs a month and really have great growth, because especially in the UFC brand where the brand proposition is so much different. When you segment the industry, you kind of have this whole big boutique section of clubs, and then you have the traditional fitness section of clubs, which is like LA Fitness, 24, Equinox, Planet Fitness, Choose, Crunch, all those things. And then we're in our own space. We're in our own segment of consumers that we don't really have the adversity of direct competition for what our value proposition is, but we still have competition as it relates to the traditional consumer. So, that's the game you play every day. And what I really like about this industry, if you peel all that back and, you look at what every company stands for, I don't look at gyms as competitors anymore, right? We all have this mission, I hope, where we can try to change the way people look at their life, both introspectively on how they think of themselves, but then also from an extrovert standpoint, their ability to communicate through inner confidence. And so I think the industry has this opportunity to, instead of taking swipes at one another, is look at the fitness penetration percentage of, let's just say it's 25% in the US. Can we double that? It's less than 0.5% in Africa. Can we double that? And so in China, it's next to nothing. So you look at all these markets, and can we slowly over time as an industry, whether it's virtual, it's brick and mortar, or franchising, company owned, all these different brands, let's establish these great opportunities for consumers to be inspired and motivated to go change their life in the fitness arena, so they can not only improve their life, but their entire family and circle of association around them.
And the thing that I appreciate so much, so my background wasn't in the fitness industry, it was fitness consumer. I worked in TV for many years and have interviewed people from all sorts of industries. And what really got me into this niche is because I believe you when you say that. And also, you're not the only one that has that message. It always comes back to that. And I think it's because yourself, myself, we know that it's changed our lives. And it really, truly helps you have a more experiential life experience, a more full life experience, because it does work on body and mind. And the more people that we get to understand that, because it's not selling them something that doesn't work. Like, I think that's where there was so much difficulty in the industry sometimes, is because there's so many people selling the quick fix, where you're like, no, if you consistently dedicate yourself to this, it will change your life. And that's simply a fact. And one thing I admire a lot about your brand was how many young kids I saw in there. Because truthfully, I'm like, if that had existed when I was a child, that's probably something I would have gravitated to 100%. I was the kid that sucked at sports. I collected participation ribbons like a fucking champ. But if I had a space that I could walk in that was instilling, and I know what martial arts can do, it's discipline, it's confidence. These are you're teaching them the school of life on the ground there. So talk to me about the future of fitness, especially because you foster this incredible message within the children that will be the future of this industry.
Do you have a participation room at home where you have all?
They ended up in that box that goes place to place. I live in
Yes.
700 square feet. So luckily they
Yes.
pack up nice.
Make sure you pass it down to your next generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it earlier, right? Is that for me, when I look at the victims of COVID, more than anything, with all due respect to obviously people that may have lost their life, obviously you feel terrible about that. But the young generation that got brought into this world during that 3 to 4 year period, it's impactful. And even a little bit older, when you look at 6, 7-year-olds, it's impactful. When you and I were growing up, I'm older than you, but when you and I were growing up, we used to play in the sandbox, get dirty, get all these viruses, eat food off the ground, not care. And we developed our immune systems, right? People aren't realizing that by being 100% masked, and I don't want to get too controversial, but being 100% masked and trying to be super clean and not talk to other people and have social distancing and all these things, it not only compromises your immune system in a big way, but the social skills that end up going backwards as material. People start living in a 2-dimensional world, which they did for a couple of years. It changes the way that you talk to people, and that can mentally impact you in a big way. So to me, whether you're an advanced athlete and you're in a specific, training with somebody, or you're in a community where there's a bunch of people that just come together and you're not that great of an athlete, you got to have a place to go to have a release of stress and a release of issues that are piling up. And even though these are young kids and they don't understand it, the same stress that we feel as adults, they feel it. They just don't know how to explain it. They absorb it and they feel it. So they need to have that outlet. When you see kids getting worked up or not being respectful or going to crime or taking these paths of least resistant areas of their life to, maybe go down the road of being a criminal, it's because they don't know how to be expressive and how to deal with all of the pain and frustrations and concerns. So we wanted to create that environment in our gyms where kids have a place to go, where mom and dad can work out, kids can work out, they can all work out together, they can work out separately. But then they can talk about it, and they can talk about nutrition. They can talk about their experience. They can measure their successes and what they want to accomplish together as a family. And the goal really is to bring the family together. And we're not there having these sermons, every other day and talking about just family values. We're really seriously being empathetic about making sure that kids have a very, hopefully, fun experience, because we know when you're young, if it's not fun, you're not going back. You're going to put your foot down. You're going to cry about it, and you're going to create too much of a disruption where the parents won't want to bring you back. So you got to be able to intersect fun with an inspiration and with an experience that both the parents and the kids will enjoy, so they can do this together and become stronger as a family together.
Well, I think you're definitely a leader of a brand that is doing this. And as I say, it was just very impressive when I walked into your walls and saw it firsthand, because truthfully, just knowing UFC as a name, it was the last thing I expected. So it was very neat to see that in action. So kudos to you. Before I let you go, I would just love if you leave me with your favorite inspirational quote or a motivational mantra that we can pack up and take with us as we all look future forward.
Yeah, but you're full of all these great questions. We gotta get you on some of these national broadcasts here, because you're a great question asker. By the way, which club did you go to? Which club did you visit?
So I was in Huntington Beach and Costa Mesa.
Okay, so a little bit of a smaller location and a bigger location. It
was actually very neat to experience the differentials as well. It was very cool being in the smaller location because they had the outdoor fitness space. And yeah, the camaraderie that was just taking place there. I'm a headphones in type of workout person. For myself, I talk endlessly for a living. So it's my shut up and lift things moment. But to just see that in kind of this traditional gym space, it was cool. Honestly, I love being able to explore different concepts because I really am passionate about this industry. It's changed my life. And I think the message is just too damn important to not raise my voice behind it, honestly.
I love it. I love it. You come across very genuine too. So yeah, I guess the message that I leave, as we go through and you look at the past, the present, and the future, we're living in a crazy time. It was also a crazy time in the 80s, probably when you were born, probably the late 80s, early 90s.
Late ones.
Yeah. So it was a crazy time in the 80s. It was a crazy time in the 70s and the 60s. It's no different today. We're going through a crazy time. It's just different challenges and different points of adversity. And I think human kindness is just something that's getting forgotten. I think there's a lot of self-serving entitlement, just a lot of things that have changed in the world. A lot of it was driven by COVID, and a lot of it is just driven by noise, and a lack of what I call emotional intelligence. And so I think if people can just be kind to each other and understand that everybody has a point of view, and sometimes we're not going to agree, and sometimes we'll think of things differently, and it's okay. Doesn't mean I shouldn't respect. I mean, I should still respect you, right? I should, even though our views are different, I need to respect you and listen to you and understand you. And if we go different paths or different journeys, it's okay. Be the best that you can on your journey. And it doesn't help anybody to say hurtful things. It doesn't help anybody to tear people down. It just gets in your own way, and it puts baggage on you personally. And so I think kindness and empathy, authenticity, I think all those things are important. We're not through adversity. We're not done with the challenges that lay in front of us, right? If anything, they're going to become more problematic. And so be prepared, be ready, and be the best version of who you are through staying fit, through having a good circle of association of people around you, and then exercise the common theme of treat people like you want to be treated, and with good authenticity. And I think you'll be in a pretty good position to take on life no matter what gets thrown at you in the future.
Beautifully said, Adam. I truly appreciate your time. I can't imagine how busy you are. So I appreciate very much that you carved out some space to join me today. And I look forward to following the journey and just seeing your rapid expansion continue.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was great to meet you too.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness, the Industry Series. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World, your fitness, your way. New episodes of the Industry Series drop every Monday and the Celebrity Series every Wednesday. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.